So there's some Nier DLC. And naturally I have it. Now, if you've been paying some attention, you might have noticed that every time I hit continue, or when I just start a new game to begin with, the game would prompt me to try it. Before we get into it properly, I would like to actually try and take its advice. The game says you can do this as soon as you get Grimoire of Ice. So as you can see, I went ahead and went through a new game. I have no words. Absolutely none. My only weapon is the dagger that you pick up inside the Lost Shrine. I only have Dark Blast and Dark Lance. So, I mean, the game says, go ahead and try this when you get Grimoire of Ice. So, let's go ahead and try this, since I just got Grimoire of Ice. I mean, the game is set to easy, too. Shouldn't really matter that much. Right? Right. Of course I'm right. Turns out it doesn't work that way. At all. So, let's rejoin our Papa Nier, as he's, checking on his chickens. Incidentally, I never really paid attention to these things before, but oh my god, they are so cute. Look at those little guys. They follow the mother hen in a little line. Oh. I don't know if she actually has chicks before the time skip. I don't think she does. That's cute. Anyway. DLC. I have oftentimes come in here and there's been this mysterious checkpoint. And, never bothered to investigate it. So the premise of this, is that the DLC basically unlocks Nier's wife's diary from years and years ago. And in accordance to that, we are playing as brother Nier while we're here. See? Hey, bro. The idea, of course, being that this diary was made, like, 10 years ago, so... Yeah, about 10 years ago. So, Nier was young and fit and pretty at some point in time. It dumps you out to this weird white void, and it gives you these big doors. These doors are the entrance to the main DLC. The entire thing is basically just extended combat. It is 15 individual rooms behind 3 doors of combat challenges. You also get these cryptic little story hints about the background of the game. And once you do that, you wind up in these crazy filtered stages from the main game, and you kill things. You're also treated to some pretty bitchin' remixes, so better enjoy that too. As you obviously saw from our first attempt going in here at level 4, this is not to be played early. Matter of fact, I believe that the earliest opportunity that you really have to feasibly complete these is at the start of Part 2. I've saved them for the actual New Game Plus because, well, I don't have anything to kill time with between episodes, so it seems as good as anything. I mean, you kind of need a break in New Game Plus. It gets, oppressive. As I said, these are all based on actual areas from the game. This one in particular is actually the stairwell that Goose chased you up in the Shadow Lord's castle. As you can obviously tell, the entire point of this is just to run around the staircase and murder everything along the path. We'll eventually wind up in the middle of this area, and though you can technically just hop down there right now, all the enemies will actually be spawning up on the staircase itself. So, and once you hop down the middle, I don't believe there's actually a way to get back up. You kind of mess up your progress that way. So don't try and sequence break the DLC. So we'll just kind of skip part of that. It goes on for a while, trust me. It's fun, but you don't want to see it. Anyway, I was waiting for other enemies to spawn. They don't. And that is basically your cue that you're good to just hop down to the bottom of the stage. You can see the mini-map, all the shades milling around like that. This is also an excellent opportunity to rock out. Okay, I actually think here translates less to I was waiting to make sure the shades were spawning, and more I was checking my my setup to make sure it was actually recording. So I also mentioned that obviously we're playing as Brother Nier right now. If you do this through Replicant, you will in fact be playing as Papa Nier instead. The difference between these two is that this time the diary is couched as being from Nier's wife. In Replicant, it's couched from being his mother's perspective. So while here we're technically playing a Nier in the past, in Replicant you wind up playing basically Nier's father going through these things. So all the combat challenges are different. This first one obviously pits you against a hordes and hordes of little guys and bats before segueing into this big guy here. And while you obviously aren't going to notice it, there is actually a different difficulty curve as far as I can tell. I mean, obviously it's ludicrous trying to do this before you're level 20. But I have this on a hard mode, and this guy is taking substantial damage. So whatever multiplier gets applied doesn't seem to be as painful as it is in the main game. Yet. I emphasize yet. So after you finish each stage, you're given a little prize, and once you finish the entire door, you'll be given a greater one. New Crazy Filter Land takes us right outside of the manor. And the crazy remix that you're hearing in the background on this particular one is Song of the Ancients. The last level started off with a remix for Emil Karma, and fighting the bigger bosses, just in general, in these, is a remix of Bluebird. They're all kinda awesome. This arena fight obviously first concentrates on these, the sword-wielding warrior shades. They will eventually stop spawning. Yeah, they will stop spawning and give way to these, little wizard shaman guys. So I never mentioned this in the main game, and I guess it's... might as well now, I'm talking about name things anyway. One of the things that I really love about boss battles in general, and this shows up more and more in this, the DLC rounds here, is the weird bullet hell kind of influence that you get in a lot of these fights. Like, one of the big, huge things I love about this game is that it never really keeps you waiting for very long. The single longest time you go without significant gameplay input is basically right in the middle of the game, where you have a 7-minute long cutscene. And it comes right after the toughest boss battle in the game, so it kind of comes as a welcome break. I mention this in particular for boss fights, because a lot of bosses in action-oriented games will generally have a point when they have a weakness, and in order to make them more difficult, you have to wait for that weakness to be revealed. And for Nier, this is never really the case, except arguably with Wendy. And in order to compensate for that, the game keeps you always occupied, either with other enemies, or with this crazy bullet hell dodging. And I like that. That way you never wind up with the boring boss, I guess. And speaking very vaguely of the Knave of Hearts, here we are in the library. And speaking entirely of Bullet Hell, this is one of the big Bullet Hell stages for the DLC. The objective is to kill all the little shamans and all the little guys that wind up spawning throughout the fight. Unfortunately, the shamans themselves can teleport. And eventually they get anti-magic barriers, so that's even better. You can see him, well, teleporting right there. This is, a gimmick that isn't in the main game, and I'm quite glad for that because it gets a bit annoying. Especially when paired with the anti-magic field, so you can't try and lance them when they're across the map, you just have to spear charge fast enough. Background here, I believe, is the Shadow Lord. Yes, it is. And now that we've cleared the first 3 challenges, we are awarded with the Fool's Embrace, the first of 3 weapons that we're going to be picking up over the course of the DLC. And how convenient, they talk about the Dragon's Corpse right there. The 3 DLC weapons are actually based off of Angelus from Drakengard. And by which I mean they look like Angelus from Drakengard. They're kind of weird, but they are very powerful. Not necessarily the most powerful weapons in each of their fields, but they are quite powerful. And they use unique upgrading materials, so you don't need to worry about wasting them on other things when you're trying to upgrade all your other equipment. The room we've now been teleported into is at the top of the Lost Shrine, the place where we fought Gretel and where Weiss was being kept. You can see the seal to the Shadow Lord's castle rotating in the background. And on a similar vein, the background music for this is also a remix of The Incomplete Stone, the Lost Shrine's music. Back to Bluebird. Here we're going to begin seeing much tougher enemies. See, the Dark Lance barely nicked his armor. Better there, though. As you can see, I'm being pretty liberal with my medicinal herbs and health salves, and there's really no reason not to be. Each of these doors will obviously restock your healing supply at least a little bit. These earlier doors only do medicinal herbs, but the later ones will give you health salves. I believe the last one might give you a recovery potion. And well, the next area will show you another good reason just to go ahead and use them. So here we find ourselves in a kind of pseudo 2D area. Obviously we still have depth of movement as well as lateral, but this resembles very closely the area in the Barren Temple, where we had to do a little bit of 2D platforming. By which I both mean that it is like that little area with the 2D platforming and also resembles the Barren Temple. A theory that I've read, although I'm not sure if this is an official source or not, is that some of the contents of the DLC are based on things that had to be cut from the main game. Obviously not just the bosses or the crazy filters, but these actual areas. A few of these occur that you don't find in the main game. Obviously they're still made with in-game assets, but I believe that these were not just cobbled together for the DLC, they were based on areas that wanted to be implemented. Like, here, for instance, is me dying, which I'm sure the game really wanted to use a lot of. Here, for instance, is the Barren Temple, which had those couple of 2D areas, but not a whole lot to really justify the use of them. And what this implies to me is that they intended to use a lot more, and, you know, just ran out of time. For instance, if you look in the back of the last room of the temple where you fight Shariar, you can actually see that there's a hallway behind the big sand pit. Again, I have no real basis in fact of this, but it seems to me that it might have been at one time intended that you fight Shariar and then would return at a later date to explore more of the temple, and this might have been an idea of what you would have gotten. It's a bit rough around the edges, which obviously implies they got to kind of construct the, oh, what is the word? The demo, I suppose, the tech demo, the, proof of concept. That's what I meant. But never got to implement it because, you know, time, money, whatever. People drowning in sand. Still, it's a pretty neat area. And if I weren't fumbling around with the platforming, I think it'd be even better. This particular iteration of Little Shade Shaman, now that I'm looking at them, I don't believe you actually encounter in the main game either. You see them, but they're not armored. Or at least they don't have those funny hats as armor. Oh boy. Yeah, I saw where that was going. It's such a good idea. Too bad I can't aim. Also of note is that I wound up so close to that guy that he could not actually spellcast at me. Anyway, goodbye. Anyway, this is what I meant about being a little bit, rough around the edges. This should not be a difficult jump. It has no business being a difficult jump, but it is right at the edge of Nier's jumping abilities, and if you wait too long on that platform down there, you just kind of screw yourself over. A lot. There we go. And this big guy is our final challenge for the day. He's not as hard as his previous armored counterparts. Although he hits like a truck, wow. Yeah, he's not as hard as armored counterparts, and he's the standard tall shade enemy, so his patterns aren't exactly new. Or threatening. You're not an idiot, anyway. There we go. fade out, and you obtain a DLC outfit. I believe if you do this door subsequently, you'll either get... Yeah, you just get the experience and the herbs, and that's it. And I am certainly looking forward to showing off those DLC outfits. For now, however, we have to depart. Anyway, that's the basics for the DLC. We'll be coming back during major breaks in the plot developments to show off the rest of the doors and the rest of the goodies that we can get. So for now, I guess I'll see you next time.